Naomi Hayes surveyed her bustling kitchen, a symphony of clanking pans and joyous chatter. The Ember wasn't just a restaurant. It was her life's breath, a legacy built on passion and flavor. Yet, an urgent call threatened to pull her away, casting a shadow over her culinary sanctuary. In her elegantly appointed office at the Ember, Naomi reviewed glowing financial reports and heartwarming customer feedback. This wasn't just success. It was a testament to years of tireless dedication. She had poured her heart into every innovative dish, meticulously crafted each menu, and cultivated an atmosphere that made the Ember one of the city's most beloved dining experiences. Awards gleamed on her wall, silent witnesses to countless late nights and early mornings, transforming a dream into a thriving reality. Her unique vision had established the restaurant as a culinary beacon, drawing patrons back again and again for its unforgettable taste and impeccable service. Late one night, in the quiet solitude of her home office, Naomi received a call that would shake her carefully balanced world. An urgent, career-defining project in another state demanded her presence, not for months, but for 2 full years. Her heart sank. How could she leave the Ember, her culinary child, for such a long time? This new venture promised immense professional growth, a chance to expand her influence beyond the kitchen. But the thought of stepping away from her beloved restaurant, even temporarily, filled her with a profound sense of conflict and stress. The weight of the decision pressed heavily upon her. The reality of her impending departure forced Naomi to confront an agonizing task: finding someone capable and trustworthy to manage the Ember. She reached out to every contact in her extensive culinary network, from renowned chefs to promising protégés. Interview after interview yielded polite smiles and impressive resumes, but no one seemed to possess the fierce dedication, the shared passion, that Naomi considered non-negotiable. She needed more than just a manager. She needed a custodian of her dream. A wave of frustration washed over her. How could she possibly entrust her life's work to someone who didn't feel its pulse as she did? The search felt endless, her anxiety growing with each passing day. Naomi scrolled through her Facebook feed, seeking inspiration for the Ember's ever-evolving menu. She'd been experimenting with new recipes, wanting something distinct and fresh. As her thumb glided down the screen, a vibrant cooking video caught her eye, a beautifully plated dish, promising a symphony of flavors she hadn't yet mastered. Then, as the camera zoomed in on the chef, Naomi's breath hitched. She instantly recognized the man's face. Daniel Vance, her old college friend. She'd always known Daniel was interested in cooking, often sharing his culinary ambitions in dorm common rooms. But she had no idea he'd actually become a professional chef. A flicker of hope ignited within her, a potential answer to her pressing dilemma. Naomi quickly clicked on Daniel's profile, confirming he was indeed a professional chef. Without hesitation, she immediately sent him a message, a whirlwind of nostalgia and curiosity. Their conversation flowed effortlessly, rekindling old memories of late-night study sessions and shared culinary mishaps in college, before catching up on their divergent career paths. Daniel shared that he'd been working as a chef for the past 5 years, but confessed his unhappiness with his current situation. The pay was low, the hours grueling, and he felt stagnant, yearning for a new opportunity, a fresh challenge to reignite his passion. Naomi listened, a significant thought slowly taking root in her mind. Could this unexpected reconnection be the answer to her own difficult predicament? Feeling a surge of relief and optimism, Naomi finally broached the subject that had been weighing so heavily on her mind. "Daniel," she began, her voice steady and laced with hope, "I own a restaurant, the Ember, and I'm looking for a manager to take care of it while I'm away for 2 years on a new project." Daniel's excitement was palpable, even through the phone line. He was thrilled to hear this, eagerly asking for more details about the restaurant and the role. After a thorough discussion of responsibilities and expectations, Naomi formally offered him the job of managing the Ember. Daniel, without a moment's hesitation, immediately accepted. He knew this was a monumental opportunity to showcase his skills and truly prove himself. Naomi felt a profound sense of relief, confident she had finally found a capable manager. "The Ember is more than just a restaurant, Daniel. It's a feeling," Naomi explained, her voice echoing slightly in the now quiet dining area. She led him through the warmly lit space, past the empty, polished tables, her hand sweeping to indicate the carefully chosen artwork, the cozy booths. Daniel's eyes, bright with genuine enthusiasm, took in every detail. In the bustling kitchen, Naomi pointed out the state-of-the-art equipment, the meticulous organization of each station. "This is where the magic happens," she smiled, a flicker of pride in her gaze. Daniel nodded, impressed. "It's incredible, Naomi. Truly. I promise you, I'll treat it like my own. I'll make you proud." His conviction was palpable, and Naomi felt a comforting wave of reassurance wash over her. His passion seemed to mirror her own, cementing her belief in her choice. Back in her office, the conversation shifted to the practicalities. Naomi laid out a detailed list of Daniel's responsibilities, emphasizing the importance of maintaining the high standards she had established. They discussed the salary, a generous figure reflecting her trust, and a flexible work schedule that would allow him the autonomy she knew he desired. Naomi also provided him with a comprehensive list of trusted suppliers and key industry contacts, stressing the relationships built over years. Before they concluded, she personally introduced Daniel to a few of her most loyal customers, regulars who often dropped by for a chat. "This is Daniel Vance," she said, a warm hand on his shoulder. "He'll be taking the reins while I'm away." Each introduction felt like an endorsement, a transfer of trust from her community to him. At the entrance of the Ember, the weight of her departure settled, but not heavily. Naomi pulled the heavy brass keys from her purse, their familiar jingle a sound she had associated with ownership for so long. She handed them to Daniel, the cool metal transferring from her warm palm to his. "Good luck, Daniel," she said, a genuine smile gracing her lips. "Make it shine." He clutched them, his expression earnest. "I will, Naomi. I promise you won't regret this." With a final nod and a small wave, Naomi stepped out, leaving her beloved restaurant, her passion, in his capable hands. As she walked away, the Ember's warm glow faded in her rear-view mirror, a symbol of trust, now tested by distance and time. Naomi Hayes stood by the window of her temporary apartment, a sleek, modern space in the bustling new state. Outside, the city lights blurred into streaks, but her mind was miles away, back at the Ember. She had entrusted her life's work to Daniel, her old college friend, and his enthusiasm had been infectious. Yet a tiny, persistent knot of worry tightened in her stomach. It wasn't that she didn't trust Daniel. It was the nature of business, the unpredictable currents that could sweep even the most well-intentioned off course. Her restaurant, her legacy, was too precious to leave entirely to chance. A seasoned businesswoman knew that even with unwavering faith, a strategic safety net was always prudent. She pulled out her phone, her fingers moving decisively as she made a discreet call. Her secret plan, a silent guardian for the Ember, was about to begin. Weeks later, in a quiet, unassuming cafe far from the Ember, Naomi met with Alex, a professional known for their discreet observation skills. Naomi's instructions were clear, delivered with a calm but firm resolve. "Your job isn't to interfere, Alex. It's to observe. Every day, visit the restaurant, order food, and watch. How are the staff treating customers? Is the service efficient? Note any irregularities, any behavior that feels off. Report back to me weekly." Alex, a person of few words but sharp eyes, nodded, a silent promise of dedication. Soon, Alex became a phantom presence at the Ember, a different face each day, subtly observing, ordering a meal, and meticulously noting every detail into a small, encrypted device. Hired to watch, Alex began to uncover the truth, though the full darkness of what would emerge remained unseen. For months, Alex's weekly reports were a source of steady reassurance for Naomi. The updates consistently described friendly and attentive workers, swift service, and efficiently prepared food. Naomi would review them, a relieved smile gracing her lips. It seemed her cautious decision had been unnecessary. Daniel was doing an excellent job. A full year passed, marked by a stream of positive feedback, confirming that the Ember continued to thrive under Daniel's management. Naomi's initial worries had almost completely faded, replaced by a sense of calm and pride. It was a year of peace, a period so consistently good it almost felt too perfect. Unbeknownst to her, This calm was merely the prelude, the quiet before a storm that would shake the Ember to its very foundations. He fired everyone. His friend's legacy, now in the hands of strangers. A year into his management, Daniel Vance began to feel an unchecked sense of authority. He convinced himself the Ember needed a, quote, fresh energy, a complete overhaul to truly mark his tenure. Without a single word to Naomi, he unilaterally decided to terminate all the original chefs and long-standing workers, the very backbone of the restaurant. A stark, now hiring sign quickly appeared in the window, and Daniel, with a misplaced sense of ambition, swiftly onboarded an entirely new team. His motive seemed to be a desire for control and perhaps a misguided attempt at innovation, but it was a decision made in haste and without the deep consideration Naomi would have given. He believed he was making improvements, but a dangerous short-sightedness clouded his judgment. A fresh start or a hidden disaster? The restaurant's new face hides a dark truth. Initially, the change seemed a positive one. The new staff, fresh faces eager to prove themselves, moved with a visible energy that Daniel mistook for competence. They were more animated, more outwardly enthusiastic than the seasoned, perhaps more reserved, veterans they replaced. Customers at first might have noticed the new, vibrant atmosphere. Waiters moved swiftly, albeit with a subtle clumsiness that belied their inexperience. There was a superficial charm to their eagerness, an illusion of efficiency that momentarily masked the deeper issues brewing beneath the surface. It was a deceptive calm, a vibrant facade that would soon crack. Her beloved restaurant, now a shadow of its former glory. Who is to blame? However, the reality soon became glaringly apparent. The new staff, despite their initial energy, were largely inexperienced and lacked proper training. The quality of the food, once a hallmark of the Ember, dropped drastically. Dishes that were Naomi's signature creations now arrived bland, overcooked, or simply wrong. Service, too, suffered immensely. Orders were fumbled, drinks were spilled, and customers found themselves waiting excessively long for their meals. The once seamless operation became a frustrating, inefficient mess. Plates were returned to the kitchen with complaints, and the confused expressions of patrons grew more frequent. The Ember was quickly becoming a shadow of its former glory. The manager's absence, a recipe for disaster and disrespect. Daniel, unfortunately, seemed oblivious or simply indifferent to the spiraling decline. He paid little attention to the fact that his new staff were not properly trained, nor did they possess the right attitude towards customer service. There was no clear plan, no direction for the restaurant under his helm. Instead of actively supervising, training, or intervening, Daniel was often preoccupied, lost in his own world, perhaps on his phone, while stacks of unread reports piled up on his messy desk. His complacent leadership allowed a vacuum to form, a breeding ground for unprofessionalism and, soon, something far more sinister. The veneer of new energy at the Ember quickly crumbled, revealing something far more sinister. It started with subtle glances, whispers in the kitchen, and eye rolls when certain customers walked in. Soon, the behavior escalated into overt contempt. The new staff, unchecked by Daniel, began to develop a hostile attitude, specifically targeting black patrons. Waiters would openly insult them, their voices dripping with disdain, or speak to them with a casual rudeness that bordered on aggression. Orders for black customers were deliberately delayed, left to sit on the pass until cold, or simply forgotten for egregious lengths of time. A quick drink order could stretch into an hour-long wait, while tables around them, predominantly non-black, received prompt, attentive service. It wasn't just poor service, it was a calculated campaign of disrespect. The once welcoming atmosphere of the Ember was slowly being poisoned by a culture of open discrimination. Unbeknownst to the callous staff, every sneer, every deliberate delay, every rude remark was being meticulously documented. Alex, Naomi's secret observer, moved through the Ember like a ghost, a silent witness to the escalating injustice. Alex would order food, feign preoccupation, and with an almost imperceptible movement, note down the specific incidents. Dates, times, descriptions of the staff involved, and the exact nature of the mistreatment, especially towards black customers. The reports weren't just about declining service, they painted a stark, undeniable picture of racial bias. Alex's observations revealed a consistent and disturbing pattern, proving this wasn't an isolated incident, but a systemic problem that had taken root deep within the restaurant. The gravity of these findings weighed heavily on Alex, knowing the crucial nature of this information for Naomi. The insidious behavior of the Ember's new staff couldn't be contained within its walls forever. Whispers about the terrible service and, more disturbingly, the racist treatment of black customers began to spread like wildfire throughout the neighborhood. Once loyal patrons, especially from the black community, started to avoid the restaurant, choosing instead to dine elsewhere or simply pass by with disapproving looks. Empty tables became a more frequent sight, particularly during peak hours that the Ember once dominated. The vibrant buzz that Naomi had painstakingly built over years was being replaced by a chilling quiet and the damaging hum of negative gossip. The restaurant's reputation, once a source of pride, was now being systematically dismantled, turning a beloved establishment into a place many felt unwelcome, even unsafe. Naomi stared at her tablet, Alex's weekly update filling the screen. Her temporary apartment in the new state felt suddenly cold, the comfortable silence shattered by the words she read. Alex, ever the professional, laid out a detailed, damning report. Not just poor service, but outright racist behavior. Consistent refusal to serve black patrons for extended periods. Numerous instances of verbal abuse and dismissive attitudes. Direct insults overheard, specifically targeting black customers. Naomi's breath hitched. She scrolled through timestamps, brief descriptions of incidents, a spilled drink, a forgotten order, a sneering remark. Her face contorted, a mix of disbelief and dawning horror. How could it be this bad? How could Daniel have let her beloved, the Ember, descend into such a hateful place? The reports were undeniable, each bullet point a fresh wound to her heart, confirming the whispers of decline and the insidious rot of discrimination. This wasn't just mismanagement. It was an unbearable truth. The tablet clattered onto the coffee table as Naomi rose, her mind a whirlwind of anger and profound disappointment. She paced her small living room, the quiet space amplifying the turmoil within her. Daniel Vance, her old college friend, the man she had entrusted with her life's work, her legacy. How could his initial enthusiasm have dissolved into such negligence? She remembered his earnest promises, his wide-eyed admiration during the restaurant tour. Now those memories felt like a cruel joke. A sharp pain lanced through her chest, a feeling of personal betrayal. She stopped by a framed photo, a younger, smiling Naomi and Daniel from their college days. Her fist clenched at her side. He hadn't just failed the restaurant, he had failed her, failed the trust she so freely gave. The anger burned, a righteous fire fueled by the injustice. There was no more time for reflection, no more room for doubt. Naomi snatched her phone, her movements sharp and decisive. She had to act. Now. Her project, the one that had pulled her away for 2 years, suddenly seemed insignificant compared to the crisis unfolding at the Ember. "This is Naomi Hayes," she stated into the phone, her voice firm, resolute. "I need to make immediate arrangements to return home. My project here will need to be put on hold indefinitely." She quickly booked the first available flight, her fingers flying across the screen. As she began to pack, tossing clothes haphazardly into a suitcase, she glanced at a map on her wall, tracing the vast distance between her and her restaurant. She was coming home. And she wasn't just coming to investigate. She was coming to reclaim what was hers, armed with a fury that would not be ignored. The crisp chime of the entrance bell, once a comforting melody, now sounded like a jarring intrusion as Naomi stepped into what was once her sanctuary. She had dressed down, simple jeans and a nondescript jacket, hoping to blend in, to become just another face in the crowd. No one looked up. No one recognized the woman who had poured her heart and soul into every brick and every dish of the Ember. The dining area, usually a vibrant tapestry of conversation and clinking cutlery, felt different. It was quieter, yet held a strange underlying tension. Several tables sat empty, a sight that twisted a knot in Naomi's stomach. She found a small, unoccupied booth in a corner, settling in, her eyes scanning the room. The new staff, a sea of unfamiliar faces, moved with an air of indifference, a stark contrast to the passionate, attentive team she had cultivated. This wasn't her Ember. A wave of apprehension washed over her. A stranger in her own house, indeed. Naomi waited. And waited. A waiter, a young man with a perpetually bored expression, passed her table 3 times without so much as a glance. She tried to catch his eye, offering a small, polite smile each time, but he simply looked through her, attending to a table of non-black customers nearby with a forced, almost performative, cheerfulness. Her initial apprehension began to curdle into a slow, simmering frustration. An hour crawled by, each minute feeling like an eternity. Other customers came, were seated, and had their orders taken, sometimes even served, all while Naomi sat, utterly ignored. The clock on the wall seemed to mock her, taking away the precious time she had sacrificed from her urgent project. This wasn't mere oversight, it was deliberate, a pointed, calculated snub. The reports from Alex, once alarming, were now echoing in her ears with chilling clarity. This humiliation, in her own establishment, was almost unbearable. Finally, the same waiter sauntered over, a sneer barely concealed beneath his indifferent facade. "What do you want?" he drawled, his tone dripping with contempt. Naomi, though fuming, kept her voice steady. "I'd like to order, please. I've been waiting for an hour." He scoffed, rolling his eyes. "Well, maybe you should learn to wait longer. We don't serve just anyone, you know." Naomi's jaw tightened. "What did I do wrong?" she demanded, her voice rising slightly. "Why are you treating me this way?" The waiter's smirk widened, a truly ugly sight. "Nothing," he sneered. "I just don't like you." And with that, he lifted a plate of half-eaten food from a nearby table, still warm and greasy, and, deliberately, slowly, poured its contents all over Naomi's jacket and lap. A gasp escaped her lips, her eyes wide with shock and pure, unadulterated outrage. The smell of stale sauce filled the air, a physical manifestation of the insult. For a moment, Naomi was frozen, the shock of the waiter's audacious act holding her captive. Then, a raw, burning rage ignited within her. Every fiber of her being screamed, to lash out, to confront this disrespectful, racist individual, to scream her ownership from the rooftops. Her hands clenched into fists, trembling with the effort to control herself. This was it, the direct, undeniable proof. But a deeper, more strategic part of her mind, the businesswoman who had built the Ember from the ground up, reminded her. One incident, even one this egregious, might be dismissed. She needed more. She needed undeniable, systemic proof. Taking a deep, shuddering breath, Naomi forced herself to rise, her eyes a cold, hard glare directed at the smirking waiter. She would not react now. She would gather more evidence. She would return tomorrow. And then, justice would be swift and absolute. It wasn't a fluke. The racism is systematic, and Naomi is about to explode. Naomi returned to the Ember the following day, a quiet storm brewing within her. She chose a different table, hoping for a different outcome, but the pattern of contempt was already etched into the very fabric of her restaurant. Another waiter, a young man with a perpetually bored expression, sauntered past her table multiple times, actively avoiding eye contact. Naomi cleared her throat, tapped a spoon against her glass, anything to get his attention. He finally glanced her way, a dismissive sneer playing on his lips before he turned his back again. An hour passed, echoing the previous day's humiliation. Her order remained unplaced, her presence ignored. Naomi felt a cold dread mix with a familiar, searing anger. It wasn't an isolated incident. It was a policy. This was a deliberate act, not just of poor service, but of blatant disrespect, mirroring every alarming report Alex had sent. Her face, usually composed, now showed a mix of disbelief and simmering fury, a silent promise of the storm to come. The owner's rage erupts, exposing the restaurant's dark secret to everyone. Naomi's patience, stretched thin by a year of worrying reports and 2 days of personal degradation, finally snapped. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping loudly across the polished floor, drawing startled glances from the few other customers. Her voice, usually calm and authoritative, cracked with raw fury as she addressed the offending waiter, who now stood frozen, startled by her sudden outburst. "Excuse me," she shouted, her voice echoing through the dining area. "What is your problem? Why am I being treated like this? Why are you refusing to serve me? Do I look invisible to you? In my own restaurant, no less." Her chest heaved, her face red with anger, a finger pointing accusingly at the stunned waiter. Other customers looked on in shock, their hushed conversations abruptly ceasing. The quiet, insidious racism that had festered in the Ember was now exposed, raw and undeniable, for all to see. His friend, in a public meltdown. Daniel walks into a nightmare of his own making. The waiter, recovering from his initial shock, scoffed, a smirk spreading across his face. "Look, lady, you're making a scene. You can shout all you want, it won't change anything. You can't do anything." His arrogance only fueled Naomi's rage, but before she could respond, a familiar figure appeared at the restaurant's entrance. Daniel Vance, looking disheveled and clearly caught off guard, stood frozen in the doorway. His eyes, wide with disbelief, swept across the chaotic scene. Naomi, red-faced and shouting, the defiant waiter, and the stunned customers. His gaze landed on Naomi, and a gasp escaped his lips. The chaos he had allowed to fester was now exploding in his face, with his friend at the very center of it. Naomi's furious gaze shifted from the smirking waiter to Daniel, a silent, damning accusation in her eyes. The silence screams louder than words. Daniel knows something is terribly wrong. Daniel rushed towards Naomi, his face a mask of confusion and concern. "Naomi? What? What are you doing here? Why didn't you tell me you were coming?" He looked from her to the waiter, then back to her, completely bewildered by the public spectacle. Naomi didn't say a word. Her anger was still a roaring inferno, too intense for coherent speech. Her jaw was clenched, her hands trembled slightly, and her eyes, usually warm and expressive, were now cold, hard chips of fury. Daniel knew, in that gut-wrenching moment, that something was profoundly, terribly wrong. The silent, furious glare she fixed upon him conveyed more than any words could. His questions hung in the air, unanswered, as the tension in the dining room became almost unbearable, building anticipation for the explanation that would surely follow. Naomi led Daniel into his office, the lingering echoes of her public outburst still hanging in the air. Her fury, though simmering, had now settled into a cold, unwavering resolve. Daniel closed the door, his face a mask of confusion and concern. "Naomi, what on earth is going on? Why didn't you tell me you were coming back? And why were you shouting at the staff?" he asked, his voice laced with bewilderment. Naomi didn't respond to his questions directly, her gaze steady and piercing. "Daniel," she began, her voice calm but firm, "the waiters in this restaurant treated me appallingly. They spoke to me rudely, insulted me, and refused to serve me. They even poured food on me when I simply asked what I had done wrong." Daniel's eyes widened in disbelief, his jaw slackening. Naomi then reached into her bag, pulling out a slim folder. "And that's not all. For the past year, I've had a secret spy, Alex, observing everything. Their weekly reports have been alarming. They've documented how the quality of food plummeted, how the service became atrocious, and, most disturbingly, how your new staff developed a hostile attitude, especially towards black customers. They would insult them, talk to them rudely, and deliberately waste their time." Daniel's face paled further as he stared at the folder, the weight of her words sinking in. Daniel was utterly stunned by Naomi's revelation. A spy? The thought alone was shocking, but as the details of Naomi's first-hand experience and Alex's consistent reports washed over him, he understood. He buried his face in his hands, the weight of his negligence pressing down on him. How could he have been so blind, so complacent? He had been given a golden opportunity, a chance to prove himself, and he had squandered it, not just through poor management, but by allowing a culture of discrimination to fester in his friend's beloved restaurant. The rumors Naomi spoke of, the ones that had been circulating in the neighborhood, suddenly became terrifyingly real. He thought of Naomi, his friend, the woman who had trusted him with her life's work, being subjected to such humiliating and racist treatment in her own establishment. A profound shame washed over him, a crushing realization of his failure. He was disappointed in himself, disgusted by the staff's actions, and deeply regretful that he had let things spiral so far out of control. Daniel lifted his head, his face red with a mixture of shame and boiling anger. He couldn't believe he had let this happen. He immediately grabbed his phone. "Get everyone in here! All the waiters, all the kitchen staff, now!" His voice boomed, startling Naomi momentarily. Within minutes, a dozen confused and defensive staff members shuffled into the office, their faces a mix of apprehension and annoyance. They had no idea what storm was about to break. Daniel stood before them, his hands clenched into fists, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "What is wrong with all of you?" he shouted, his voice cracking with fury. "Your attitudes are despicable. You treat customers, paying customers, with disrespect, rudeness, and hostility. This is not the Ember. This is not how we operate." The staff exchanged nervous glances, some rolling their eyes, clearly thinking Daniel was overreacting. They couldn't fathom the true gravity of their actions, or the identity of the woman silently observing them from the corner. "Some of you have even gone as far as insulting patrons and refusing them service, simply because of their race," Daniel continued, his voice laced with disgust. The staff scoffed, one waiter daring to mutter, "What's she going to do about it?" Their arrogance was breathtaking. It was then that Daniel turned to Naomi, a resolute look in his eyes. "You think this is a joke?" he challenged them, his voice lowering but gaining an ominous edge. "You think you can get away with treating people like this in her restaurant?" He then held up Naomi's ID card, her name and face clear for all to see, along with other official documents. "This is Naomi Hayes," he declared, his voice ringing with authority. "She is the owner of the Ember." A collective gasp swept through the room as the staff's faces dropped, their smug expressions replaced by utter shock and dawning fear. Naomi stepped forward, her gaze unwavering, her voice cold and decisive. "And I don't want to see any of you involved in harassing black customers in my restaurant ever again. You're all fired. Pack your things and leave." The silence that followed was deafening, a sudden, terrifying realization of the consequences of their actions. Naomi stood tall in Daniel's office, her presence a stark contrast to his slumped form. Her voice, though calm, carried the weight of her authority. "The staff involved in harassing our black customers have been terminated, Daniel. They will not set foot in the Ember again." The finality of her words hung in the air. Daniel, his face pale and etched with shame, looked up. "Naomi, I am profoundly sorry. I failed you, and I failed the Ember. I promise. It will never happen again." His apology was sincere, but the damage was already done. Naomi acknowledged his apology with a solemn nod, but a deeper disappointment lingered. "I appreciate your efforts to grow the restaurant, Daniel, but you failed to address the behavior of your staff. You didn't care enough about the customers." Her gaze was firm, unwavering. She knew then that she couldn't entrust her passion, her legacy, to anyone else. "It's time," she declared, her voice resolute, "for me to take back full control of the Ember." She turned, looking out the window at her restaurant, a fierce determination igniting in her eyes. Naomi found solace in the quiet of her home, the echoes of the restaurant's recent chaos still ringing in her ears. She spent countless hours reflecting, journal open on her lap, sketching out new plans. What went wrong? Where did she falter? She realized that her passion, though strong, had led to a degree of detachment, a trust placed too heavily. Never again. She resolved to be unequivocally hands-on, to ensure every single person working under her roof understood the true meaning of accountability and respect. The Ember was more than a business. It was a sanctuary of flavor and inclusivity, and it would be rebuilt, stronger and truer to its original vision. Her first step was to find a new team. Naomi set up a temporary hiring office, embarking on an exhaustive interview process. This wasn't just about culinary skill or service experience. It was about character. How do you handle conflict with a difficult customer, she would ask, but the real question she sought to answer was, do you genuinely value every human being? She delved into background checks, seeking individuals who embodied her core values of equality and respect. She needed more than employees. She needed allies in her mission to restore the Ember's soul, a diverse group ready to serve with both competence and compassion. Once her new team was assembled, Naomi personally led the training sessions in the now empty dining area of the Ember. A prominent code of conduct poster, designed by her, adorned the wall. She articulated new, strict guidelines, emphasizing kindness and respect for every patron, regardless of their background. "Every customer who walks through our doors deserves the best of us," she instructed, her voice firm but inspiring. She taught them not just how to serve, but how to listen, how to de-escalate conflicts with grace, and how to champion a truly inclusive dining experience. Her staff nodded, absorbing every word, ready to embrace this new foundation. The day of the grand reopening arrived, not with a literal ribbon cutting, but with a renewed sense of purpose radiating from every corner of the Ember. Naomi stood at the entrance, a warm smile gracing her lips, personally welcoming each customer who walked through the door. Her eyes met theirs, conveying a silent promise of excellence and respect. She moved through the dining area, a diligent conductor overseeing her orchestra, ensuring every guest felt valued, every dish perfect. The atmosphere hummed with a hopeful energy, a stark contrast to the recent past. Customers, curious and cautiously optimistic, appreciated her unwavering presence, a testament to her commitment. Inside, the new staff moved with a grace and professionalism that spoke volumes of Naomi's intensive training. They were consistently courteous, polite, and attentive, anticipating needs before they were voiced. A customer accidentally spilled a glass of water, and a waiter was there instantly, calmly offering a fresh napkin and a reassuring smile, handling the situation with practiced ease. Naomi watched from a distance, a quiet pride swelling in her chest. The positive feedback was immediate, echoing through the tables as patrons praised the impeccable service and the harmonious atmosphere. Her vision of a truly respectful dining experience was finally taking shape. Slowly but surely, the whispers of negativity that had plagued the Ember began to transform into a buzz of positivity throughout the neighborhood. Word spread like wildfire about the remarkable changes Naomi had implemented. Customers who had once turned away in disgust now returned, drawn by the tales of renewed quality and, more importantly, unwavering respect. They were pleasantly surprised by the inviting atmosphere, the genuine smiles, and the diverse, welcoming clientele. The restaurant was not just recovering, it was reborn, a testament to Naomi's unwavering dedication and the power of treating everyone with dignity. Naomi looked out at the Ember, vibrant and bustling, bathed in the warm glow of a successful evening. Every table was filled, laughter and conversation mingled with the gentle clinking of glasses. Her dedication, her tireless efforts to rebuild, had paid off beyond measure. The restaurant, once tainted by prejudice, now thrived as a beacon of respect and dignity, a true testament to her unwavering spirit. Her heart swelled with a quiet pride as she watched her happy staff serve every customer with genuine warmth and professionalism. The Ember wasn't just a restaurant anymore, it was a movement. Later, from the quiet solitude of her office, Naomi gazed at the lively scene below, a serene smile touching her lips. Her journey had taught her a profound truth. Success wasn't merely about making money, but about the positive impact one leaves on the world. It was about creating a space where everyone felt valued and respected. Her experience had forged a stronger leader, a woman who understood that integrity was the most crucial ingredient. What lesson did you learn from this story? Leave a comment below this video. Thanks for watching.